Hey, Chicago Fire and MLS fans. This is Nick with the Feed the Fire podcast. Thanks for tuning in again as we look ahead to match day 3 around Major League Soccer. Specifically, we're going to do a quick preview of the Chicago Fire's next match, an away game at FC Dallas down in Texas. But before we dive in, please, I want you to remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share, help grow the show, help spread the word of the Fire, of Feed the Fire, of Major League Soccer around. Also, please make sure that you go and support our sponsor, Skira Icelandic Spring Water, available at your local 7-Eleven. Now, looking ahead at the Chicago Fire's next match, they are traveling to Dallas. It's the first time in a few years that the Fire have played their old rival from way back in the 90s. And the Chicago Fire and FC Dallas have both rebuilt their roster this year. Let's take a look. I want to just do it briefly because I know it's a Friday afternoon as I'm recording here. So this is going to be a short one, a quick one, but we're going to get you ready for Saturday. So here's what you need to know about FC Dallas's roster. They have had probably more turnover than the Chicago Fire have had this past offseason, which is a lot of work. So quickly running down their players in and players out. The players out, guys you're not going to see this weekend, potentially. Eugene Ansah and Liam Frazier had options declined. Omar Gonzalez had his option declined, but you will see him this weekend. He's with the Chicago Fire now. Asier Ilaramendi, Ahmet Korsha, Jimmy Maurer, goalkeeper, that's an MLS name. Isaiah Parker, Ruan, Malik Henry Scott, Dante Seeley, Emma Twamasi, Sam. All those players there had options declined or did not have their contracts extended. Sam Junqua was traded to Salt Lake. Jesus Ferreira and Paul Arriola traded to Seattle. Tomas Pondeka is on loan to New Mexico United. Kosi Tafari traded to LAFC. Alan Velasco transferred to Boca Juniors. Enes Sali is on loan to Al Riyadh. And Diego Pepi on loan to Texomo FC. So they have turned over a lot of their roster. And not just that, they have gotten rid of a lot of well-known MLS players and a lot of Dallas players at that. But as we know with Dallas, they have the pipeline. They have the youth system. And similar to Chicago, they are bringing up a lot of homegrowns. So who is new on this FC Dallas roster that we need to keep our ears out for? So they got a couple new midfielders. Pedro Martins comes up from MLS Next Pro. Ramiro Benetti comes in on a free transfer. Leo Chu, they get in a trade with Seattle. So as we saw a couple players going to Seattle, Leo Chu coming back. Other midfielders that they've signed, Diego Garcia, Anthony Ramirez, both homegrowns. Patrickson Delgado has his purchase option picked up. He was with Independiente de Valle. Lucho Acosta, that's the biggest name that they have acquired from FC Cincinnati. So sorry, Fire fans. He leaves the conference, and then the Chicago Fire still have to go face him one more time. Also, they get midfielder Kaick, K-A-I-C-K. Not exactly sure what the proper pronunciation of that would be, but they picked him up on a transfer from Gremio. Along their back line, some guys that we are familiar with from around MLS. Lalas Abubakar, Shaq Moore. Abubakar comes in on a free agent signing. Shaq Moore in a trade from Nashville. Malachi Molina is a homegrown they've brought in, and they've also picked up Enzo Newman in the super draft. And then Osaze Urogide is on transfer from Amiens, and Alvaro Augusto transfer from Portimonense. So they have pulled in a bunch of different players to fill out their back line, provide a little bit of depth there, and probably have Shaq Moore come in as a starting player as well. But on the attack, this is who we need to be most worried about. Who can hurt the Chicago Fire on the attack? They picked up Anderson Julio in a trade from Salt Lake. They signed a couple homegrowns, Daniel Baran and Diego Pepi. And those are the attackers that they have brought in. Diego Pepi, I want to say he's related to Ricardo Pepi. I'm trying to find an article here that says that somewhere here. But, that's my assumption, is that it is Ricardo Pepi's brother, unless anyone tells me otherwise. Let me see if I can do a quick search for it here while we're recording. I should have had my notes together, but I wanted to get this out and recorded. Anyway, so that is the Dallas roster moves as they stand before the Chicago Fire game. And yes, Ricardo Pepi's younger brother is Diego Pepi with Dallas, so maybe you'll get to see him. Now, how is Dallas going to line up? If we got to start, of course, with the availability report. They haven't released it. I was hoping they'd released it by this point. I haven't seen it put out yet. But as of last week, before week 2, Leo Chu was out with an illness. Their midfielder Show, whose real name is Manuel Kafumana, but he goes by Show. Hopefully he puts on a show for Dallas on Saturday. He was also out with an illness the prior week. I expect both of them to be back. Paxton Pomykal, the oft-injured but high-ceiling Paxton Pomykal, was out with a knee injury. I doubt he'll be back for a game against the struggling Chicago side, cross-conference match, even if he was cleared by doctors for contact and training. I doubt they'd use him in this game. So how does Dallas line up? In their last match, it was a 3-3 draw at Colorado, where they scored in the 43rd, the 45th, and the 68th, gave up the tying goal in the 72nd. So it was a nice back and forth, high-scoring affair in Colorado for Dallas. They lined up in a 4-3-3 formation. So Martin Peiss is their goalkeeper, going from left to right across the back. Marco Farfan, Osaze Urogide, Sebastian Ibiaga, and Shaq Moore. That's your back line. Your midfielders here, Ramiro Benetti, Lucho Acosta, and Sebastian Legit. Here's another MLS name for you, Sebastian Legit. And your attacking players, Anderson Julio, Peter Musa, and Pedro Fonseca or Pedrino. And it was Musa, Acosta, and Pedrino getting the goals for them last week. So obviously a very strong attack. It's something that Berhalter has mentioned in his press conferences this week. It's something that Chris Brady even mentioned about having to be up for the challenge of a strong attacking team like Dallas. So you know that is on their mind. But how are the Chicago Fire going to respond to a very high-powered Dallas attack? Are they going to try and sit back and absorb pressure, or are they going to employ the best defense is a good offense philosophy? Given the last couple of games, I'm not sure, because we've seen the Fire go into their defensive shell to try and close out a game, and it backfired, and they ended up drawing DC 2-2 with that last kick goal by Morel, as well as giving up that penalty to Benteke, which fortunately he skied over the top of the bar. But still, the fact is they sat back to try and see out the game, resulting in those kind of plays. Now, you're not going to obviously park the bus from the start of the opening whistle, but I think the Chicago Fire will play a little deeper than they did in their opening match. They were playing much higher than I've seen them play in the last several years, and pretty high up the pitch, relatively speaking, across the league. But in the home opener against DC, they did sit back just a little deeper, maybe like 5-10 yards deeper. But that being the case, that it was consistent across all those players, that Berhalter was coaching that up throughout the week. He is that detailed, and I would imagine down to the yard, saying, I want you to drop back 5 more yards, not like how we did it last week. So I would expect them to come out just a little bit more defensively, kind of see where Dallas is trying to go, and then use their counterattacks with their wings. Hopefully they keep Zinkernagel as wide as Bamba is on the other side, and that they've figured out how to, well, probably not figured out at this point, but at least figured out to a degree how to get Zinkernagel the ball and kind of have some balance to the attack instead of just sending everything to Bamba or everything to Kuipers. When Zinkernagel drops deeper to get involved, or when he gets pulled into the middle of the field, that's when you start to see turnovers. That's when you start to see the opposing team being able to mark two Chicago Fire players with one defender, and then having an on-man situation, creating a breakout. So hopefully they keep Zinkernagel out wide to spread out the wingers and the defenders of Dallas. Hopefully you can keep Sebastian Legit out on the side where he's not as effective. If he starts pushing up the middle and start working 1-2 combos with Acosta and Musa, or getting to the top of the box as a third runner, fourth scoring option, taking shots from 25 yards out, that could cause some problems for the Chicago Fire. But if the Fire can lock down Musa and Julio, keep Legit Ramiro and Acosta honest, and keep them kind of a little bit back on their heels, then we're going to see a competitive match. Now, the other thing we've got to remember, and you know what, the Fire haven't gotten their win yet. This They're due. They're due. I'm going to pick a 3-2 victory for the Chicago Fire in this one. 3-2 in regular time here. That's what I'm predicting. Now, the other bit of history behind this matchup, Chicago Fire, FC Dallas, formerly Dallas Burn, had a rivalry trophy, still have a rivalry trophy between the fans, the supporter sections of each group, known as the Brimstone Cup. So let's just give you a little primer on the Brimstone Cup. It's awarded between the winner of the Fire and Dallas, and it was, I think technically it's still awarded to whoever wins on aggregate during the season. But that was back when Chicago was in the Western Conference with Dallas, and they would play usually twice a season. But now that they're in opposite conferences, when they do play, that's kind of a winner-take-all match here. Now, the article also says if the two teams have the same points against each other at the end of the year, including regular season and playoffs, the cup stays with the team currently holding it. It was created in 2001 by supporters groups from both clubs, Section 8 from Chicago and Inferno from Dallas. And obviously the name is a reference, the name of the Brimstone Cup is a reference to the names of the clubs. We had the Burn, we had the Fire, so Fire, Burn, and Brimstone, like it just makes sense. I love it. And it is actually engraved with a quote from the Aeneid that says, "The more the kindled combat rises higher, the more with fury burns the blazing fire." And that is a fantastic quote to put on anything sports related, especially the Brimstone Cup. And it was created by R.S. Owens Corporation. So there we go. It's a little bit banged up and a little bit dented from some of the pictures that I've seen going around online, as the supporters groups have had it back and forth over the years. So it gets passed around a bit. It's probably not as durable as the Stanley Cup that also gets passed around a bit. So that is the little bit of the background of the Brimstone Cup, completely a fan-initiated thing. And as far as who has it now, it's the Chicago Fire. The Fire won it in 2019. There were no games in 2020 or 2021 due to COVID. Or I should say no games due to COVID in 2020. There was not a match between these two clubs in 21. There was a draw in 2022, so the Fire retained it, and these two teams haven't played since then. So this is only the second matchup between these two teams in the last 6 years. So it'll be great to see the supporters groups get back at each other a little bit. It'll be great to see these two teams go back at each other, especially because they have played every year from inception, from the Chicago Fire's inception. Dallas was a founding franchise. So from 98 to 2019, these teams have played a match and have exchanged the Brimstone Cup since it was awarded in 2001, created and awarded in 2001. It looks like it's a fairly even split between the two teams of who comes out on top. Let me see. All-time series here. Dallas has won 18. Chicago has won 12 and 6 draws. So yeah, fairly even with a slight edge to Dallas. So that's what we have to look forward to this weekend, Chicago Fire fans. A lot of other games going on. Don't forget to check into your CONCACAF Champions Cup matches that have been going on throughout the course of the weeknights. Enjoy Sunday Night Soccer. Go watch the Onside show that MLS has put out. I haven't watched it yet, but it's getting rave reviews. Also, if one other quick thing, public service announcement here. If anyone is looking to score additional tickets to the Inter Miami match at Chicago, my season ticket rep had sent me a link for some discounted tickets. Just reach out to me either on DM me on Twitter or Facebook at Glasshouse Soccer, or you can email me glasshousesoccer@gmail.com, and I can send you her link, and you can kind of look at some discount tickets for the Miami match. Full disclosure, I don't think they're on the best parts of the sidelines. I don't think they're between the 20-yard lines, if you will, between the boxes, if you will. But if you're just wanting to be in the stadium and see the game and take part in the festivities, reach out. I can get you a code for that. With that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, for listening. Again, please like, subscribe, rate, review. February was one of our biggest months by the numbers, and we only have room to grow here on the Feed the Fire podcast. Let's go Fire.